honoured to be joined by Irfan, the CEO of Telenor Pakistan, a great friend and a great supporter of the GSMA. Just for a bit of an introduction, from a GSMA point of view, Pakistan is a very important country in the Asia-Pacific region, not just by its size and everything else, but actually by its presence in the region and its potential. Ironically, I was speaking to some venture capitalists yesterday about innovation and what countries were attractive in Asia-Pacific, and they mentioned that they don't look to the number of people who are connected. They look to the people who aren't connected. And in that respect, Pakistan has a huge asset and a huge attraction for venture capitalists to come and get in the digital ecosystem. And we're joined by Irfan today, who's been in the market for a long time and brings a whole bunch of experience and insights on what's coming and what's been happening in the country. And so I know this is going to be a great chat. So perhaps maybe Irfan, just to start up, is there anything you'd like to say about what are the latest and things that are really on the top of your mind for Telenor in Pakistan and the future ahead, the next steps that need to take for the digital transformation of Pakistan?
Thanks, Julian. Thanks for the opportunity. Happy to be here, and I'm really grateful for all the support from GSMA, which we have been getting throughout those years. So, no, as you mentioned, I mean, we are also super excited about the market and market opportunity. Not only because, as you said, I mean, it's a country of over 200 million people, but also what lies ahead of us overall. Because I think we started quite all right at the time of deregulation, about 18 years ago. But then first 5-6 years with a lot of excitement, we really catched up. And then we sort of slipped a bit, various reasons. But now when we look ahead, the reasons why we're excited is, first of all, demographics, not just the total side, but young population. 100 million people who are young, below 30. Also, I would say from a basic skill and education viewpoint, it's very educated population. Many of your viewers perhaps would not know, but we are one of the leading freelancing nations when it comes to software development, fourth actually globally. But the challenge is that we have not really able to upscale them. So there still lies at the value or bottom of the value chain. So that's a great opportunity, especially during COVID, when people have realized and businesses have realized that it doesn't matter where you are, and there's enhanced focus on digital transformation. The other thing is that we have not done the required investments as a nation. So there's no fear of, there's no legacy which we have to worry about. We can leapfrog into the technology, and we can have a jump start in many ways, whether it's government to people services, whether it's digital transformation overall. The other factor, and we believe that telecoms is very well positioned, because now everyone has realized that it's not just one sector, it's sector of sectors. In Pakistan, more than 90% of people are actually accessing internet through this device because of lack of fixed infrastructure. And it's not going to change. So we have a huge responsibility on our shoulders, the entire industry, but also a great excitement, because we feel that the value creation in the economy will mostly come through digitization.
I think that's fantastic news. I think I know you've got budget and spectrum auctions, or the upcoming budget and the spectrum auctions coming up. I mean, how do you see the telecom landscape changing over the next 6 to 12 months, or do you see changes? And you think, what role is this going to take in accelerating the digital Pakistan vision?
Yeah. So, I think, and then we had a relatively new government, and it took them a while to really understand fully various pieces of policy and whatnot. But now, I mean, and we've been engaging, and you have been helping us with that engagement the last year or so, more actively, I would say. And many of those things. So what we're saying is that let's set up a vision. There's a vision of digital Pakistan. Let's set up certain goals. Just like any other business, you need to have clarity in terms of where you like to be in a year's time or a 2 years time, and then you break those KPIs into monthly and quarterly ambitions. what are the roadblocks, how we remove those roadblocks. And then some of the things you mentioned, for example, taxation is identified as one of the, because in Pakistan, regionally as well, we are one of the most heavily taxed nation when it comes to telecom services. There are discriminatory taxes towards telecom users as well as operators. And that has been actually recognized and realized, and then now there's a gradual path which is agreed. So the next finance bill, which is due in next 10 days, we are assured that we should be getting some genuine incentives to head start the sector. The other thing which you also mentioned, spectrum. So compared to regional countries, so if you compare with Bangladesh, even Afghanistan, Pakistan has only made half of the spectrum available for commercial use compared to those countries. It's 1/3 compared to Thailand, Malaysia, and some of the other more advanced markets, and it's 1/4 that of New Zealand or Saudi or Europe, EU and US. So we are really lagging behind in terms of not understanding the role of spectrum as a lifeline for digital Pakistan. And the upcoming auction, I think, is the first step. We don't expect a whole lot in terms of the availability of spectrum, but at least that will ease some of the challenges which telcos are facing. And then we are sincerely hoping that, just like we all have learned over the years, that there's an economic value, I mean, which we need to look at, and it's not necessarily the upfront value. You need to look over the lifetime, that what economic activities you can generate through deployment of national scarce asset like spectrum. You should not try to sort of get maximum value upfront, leaving no money or little money for capex or investment. So all that, I think, the key messages have been well established. Some of the research and studies which you have done from a GSMA platform is also helping, and the messages are sinking in. So hopefully it will be a journey. I think we need to really restart, especially when we look at look forward in terms of 5G and building that ecosystem. This will be very important consideration, where we need to educate all the stakeholders, and then we have to collaborate and build this ecosystem together.
Okay. With the with the first steps, maybe in policy and regulation reform beyond those steps. I mean, is there? Do you understand, or has the government made it clear that the roadmap, how you're going to work through these steps that need to move forward with?
Yeah, so I think there are other elements of those steps which will be very important. So we have an ongoing dialogue. So some of those steps are linked to how we create that ecosystem, which is very important. Ecosystem around innovation, ecosystem or collaboration, but also skill sets. I mentioned we have a large pool of relatively raw resources, how we can polish them, how we can upskill them, how we can make them more effective. And then we realize that also there's an evolution in the telco industry as such. We realize that our journey, which started as a journey of delivering minutes when we came and got our license 16 years ago, and then last 7-8 years been focusing on delivering megabytes, has now moved on to delivering moments. So minutes to megabytes to moments. And those moments are very interesting because we're trying to solve various problems, especially during COVID. Those issues could be related to online education for kids. It is also paying your bill from the comfort of your living room, with people with having a very limited access to traditional bank account. That's a huge joy, I would say, that you don't have to stand up in long queues and pay your bills. Or that moment could be just listening to your favorite song while driving to work or whatnot. So that's an important element, that how we create that ecosystem. And we are quite clear that it's not just telcos who can, so we need to really work with startups. You're pleased to know that yesterday we had, we have our accelerator called Telenor Velocity. Yesterday was a launch of 7th cohort. So we've been running it quite successfully, supported over 30 startups. They're able to raise some decent money in the local context. You mentioned VCs. So we're still waiting for our queue of VCs to this market. but there are some success stories already established, but more to come. So I think these are some of those. But let me take this opportunity to ask you, because you've been and working with many of the markets, and we are all at different phases in our life cycle. You're more exposed to more mature market. How you see, what are the trigger points for that ecosystem to develop in any country, in your view? And also, based on your experience of Pakistan, what would be your advice?
Sure. I mean, we're certainly encouraged by, the policy statements in recent times about tax and the rights of way. I mean, there's certainly indicating a commitment and an energy to do what needs to be done for Pakistan to not just keep pace, but to catch up and overtake. Because we really think that Pakistan does have an opportunity to not just be competitive, but actually be a leader in the region. And so, for us, there's some big steps for the government still to take on turning those policies into actions and actionable frameworks. Things like rights of way are complex issues. We've got multi-levels of governments, national and local issues. So we accept it. It's a tough road to go down and make it work. But we look forward to those steps being made. On top of that, as you say, so Pakistan, I remember when I first started in the telco industry, we talked about Pakistan as being a leader in things like mobile money, some of the first non-voice SMS innovations, and Pakistan was one of those countries that was a pioneer and globally recognized as leading the way. And I think, when it comes, unfortunately, a lot of those policies and regulations, which from those periods, have taken some time and are still in the process of being updated to really put Pakistan back on an even playing field with some of its regional competitors. And it's important to understand, I think, when it comes down to digital ambitions, the economy is global. In the forum I was in yesterday, the VCs were talking about part of the challenge of the new digital nations is often in the telco industry, the mindset is limited to the geography of the country, where digital players think of globally. They think that geographies or national borders don't make limits. But in saying that, to accelerate digital Pakistan, we're really encouraged by the steps that are being taken. We think there's probably a little bit of work to be done on consultation process and whole of government engagement. A key tool or a key strategy around accelerating digital transformation is making sure that telecoms is approached in a way that it build a foundation for the whole economy to be able to transform and build on, not just the telco industry on its own. So we look forward to that approach being more broadly adopted. But comparing Pakistan to its regional peers, I mean, that's one of the big challenges. Is digital is a globally competitive, investment environment. Even Telenor is part of a big group, so like a portfolio. And I mean, investors from around the world are looking at different places to invest their money. And so it's about making sure that the economy is attractive to international investment in digital investment, not only for mobile operators, but for the digital ecosystem, VC and things like that. And I think the good signs, the early signs are, I think the government wants to achieve it. Obviously, the country is ripe and has, as you mentioned, demographics, things that are the assets that can be used to create a very strong and powerful digital country. And I know we're on the start of that journey, and hopefully in a couple of years' time we'll be able to look back and see the progress that has happened. But the good thing is the energy and the people. The last time I was in Pakistan about 18 months ago, unfortunately I haven't been back for the virus since. But it's one of those countries where you land and the energy and the vibe and the commitment of the people when you get and talk about digital is sort of very infectious. There's not a lot of countries really who have the power of that community energy and infection, to really want to make the country transform and grow. So very encouraged.
Yeah. No, that's very good to hear and encouraging to hear. Remember, I agree with you. I mean, when it comes to people, especially youth, the startups, they are really pushing hard. If you have to give an advice in terms of, because the challenge is how to execute on that ambition, as we see on ground from a policymaker's viewpoint. And we have seen various models across Asia Pacific of how governments have approached it, how they sort of execute it like a strategic priority for the nation, how they track it. Any advice, any examples of best practices you'd like to mention?
I think across the region, there's a number of people taking different approaches. I remember, I won't name names, but I know a country once when a minister actually said to me privately that he thought his country was doing so well because they hadn't done anything and they'd left the industry run. Unfortunately, I don't think that is the best policy, and there's certainly the collaboration between industry and government to achieve a common vision brings about change a lot faster and a lot more effective in a controlled manner. And from a KPI point of view, like key things to be looking at are around mobile broadband penetration, usage, adoption. Because getting people online creates the asset that allows the economy to transform. Getting people connected, getting people digital skills allows services to be built on to address those people and brings them all into the digital economy. So, already digital economy in Pakistan's around 5 to 5.5% of GDP in about 2019, and we think will rise to more than 6.5% by about 2023. But if you think the power, that's happening with less than half the people connected. So what can we do if we get everyone connected? It would be so much better. And it also prepares much better for a future, move on to future generations of technology, because you move people along a journey. You can leapfrog people to an extent, but future iterations of technology require building blocks to be put in place. And one of those key ones, if you look across the region, is mobile broadband penetration and how engaged the population is in digital.
So then let me, yeah, thanks for those insights. Let me take a lead from future generation of technology, because that's one of the most heavily debated topics these days, Julian. Even I was in a seminar yesterday where I was challenged that why we're not leapfrogging towards 5G. And then my response was that it's a journey, and we still see a huge gap in the 4G and what we can do with 4G, and the use cases has to support it. What is your view and what is your advice of a country like Pakistan, knowing all where we are and how we should approach this question of technology evolution towards 5G?
I think I would agree with your comments there. I was in Myanmar when we first launched 3G networks, a country that basically didn't have the internet. And you say, okay, well, we leapfrogged 2G, but to be honest, leapfrogging to 3G is not really leapfrogging. It was just getting people connected to the internet. 5G is a technology that obviously brings some real technology innovations that can make significant impacts on advanced manufacturing and all sorts of very advanced digital use cases. Before taking those steps, you really need to build out the ecosystem who are going to use that technology and be able to take advantage of that technology to bring those use cases to the lives and to the economy of everybody. So when it comes to leapfrogging, we would certainly be saying, the 4G, you need to build a very strong foundation in 4G. You need to get the economy transforming. You need innovations to start on 4G. And it's not about so much that it's about keeping 4G. There's a journey, as you mentioned, to go along. 5G brings new innovations, but it's increments on a previous one, and you can't wait, or you shouldn't wait for that. And also from an investment climate point of view, and from an economy point of view, you need to take that journey to get people connected using devices and services to grow those digital skills, to get enterprise digitized, to get government digitized. Those things don't need 5G. From an investment point of view, the journey starts now, and 4G is here and now. It's something that's been around for more than a decade now, really, and many of the benefits that are talked about for 5G are still a long way down the path, even in the most advanced markets. And so we really need to concentrate on getting 4G right, getting the coverage and the connection, getting people online before we race down there. But that's in preparation for further transformation with future generations. But with that comment, that I'm sort of going to swing around to something maybe that's close to my heart is connected women, getting everybody connected, not just segments of the customer base. So Irfan, personally, I need to thank you for the ongoing commitment and the support from Telenor Pakistan in your commitments to reduce the gender gap between women and men and the access to services. Can you let me know why it's important to you and to Telenor to focus on the gender gap?
I mean, this is a great question, and when I sort of look at and do some bit of analysis outside telco and see Pakistan of late 60s, I would say, you will be surprised that our GDP was bigger than countries like Korea, Thailand, Vietnam in late 60s, early 70s. And when I reflect why we are lagging behind, one of the things, among others, which came to mind is lack of female participation towards economy, towards contribution to economy. Today, and population-wise, we have close to 51% population is female. Their economic contribution in GDP is around 18%, which is massively underrepresented. And that also shows why we are lagging and why we're slipping. And it's not just, and when we look at our own sector, there's a gap, as you rightly pointed out. And that makes us think that what role we can play in our own jurisdiction, how we can encourage more and more females. That was the basis for our commitment. We have moved a couple of points since that in the last couple of years, 23 to roughly 25%, but still we're not satisfied. I think, and then we looked deeper, what reasons, and reasons are manifold. Pakistan is a large country. There are differences in different geographies. There are social issues, economic challenges, there are literacy challenges, awareness issues. Why should I have a mobile? What should I do with it? I cannot afford. Affordability issue is also there. But biggest is how can you use this as an effective tool for production enhancement? How can it impact lives and change lives? So we're doing many things to promote, actually, ranging from advocating strongly that we should have more affordable devices or handsets. Pakistan is also, you'll be pleased to know, is running one of the largest social welfare program targeting at females called ESAS program by the government. G2P payments are generally made or used to be made through mobile money or through our distribution network. And we are advocating that we should not just give them money, but we should give them tool like mobile phone with certain apps installed so that they can actually start using that and for education of their family. We also are producing, I mean, Pakistan is largely an agri-economy. I mean, over 60% of the population lives in rural. So we have specific programs for female farmers around health, nutrition of their families, but also how they can leverage technology to get weather information, pricing information on their commodities, etc. We're also extending some health insurance, especially for hospitalization and OPD charges. So these are some steps. We're also working and trying to penetrate where we have in certain regions. When I travel and I met certain female retailers or shopkeepers who just serve females. I mean, there are certain markets which are only for females. And then we're also engage as a part of certain pilots, certain female workers who go door to door to give the top up. Because of some social issues, women doesn't prefer to go out the market. So we're trying to sort of address it at various levels. But I think the biggest success of it going to be when everyone realized that why I need it, what is the use case, how this can change my life. But and then yesterday we were also thankful for GSMA that we nominated for the Glomo Awards on digital birth registration, where we have done, this is an initiative which we launched 2016. We have so far registered over 1 million births. And again, these are deep rural villages. Parents doesn't recognize why they need to register, and we're telling them the reasons. That right to identity is so much important for them, but also for government to plan education, health, etc. But also showing the impact a technology can create through a social impact. But those stories, I think, are very important, and that hopefully will start moving the needle for us.
So I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, I think that work, especially around the digital birth registration stuff, I mean, it reflects a long heritage in Telenor Pakistan of innovating that actually is then expanded around the world and looked as a reference. I think, and on the connected women, you know, I mean, there are so many people around the world now who've been helped by connected women programs, and again, Telenor Pakistan is one of those leaders that has delivered a number of innovative programs that I think have been copied and referenced in many other countries. So, but from a GSMA point of view, you know, we also encourage that innovation from operators, and you know, we thank you for the ability to support and work with you on these innovations. Certainly, we also agree when it comes down to digital inclusion, it's not just about providing coverage, but it's about providing relevant or having relevant services so people see the value of being connected. I know sometimes, and I know the challenge personally from, you know, even with digital agriculture services and things like that, sometimes convincing a farmer that the way he's learned to farm from his father or his grandfather is maybe could be improved by some digital help. It's not an easy step. But with your mention before about your 7th cohort from your incubation center, we certainly, you know, earlier this week, we also announced the 4 grantees from the GSMA Innovation Fund, winners in Pakistan. And Pakistan was disproportionately represented. You know, we had four winners from Pakistan, which are far more than any other country in Asia Pacific. And I think that reflects that early comment you said about the scale of the innovation and the community and the youth and the willingness to adapt. So as a final question, because I'm conscious of a bit of time here, you know, COVID-19 is often talked about around the world now as a real driver and a real you know, something to awaken the governments and communities up as the importance of digital and getting digital transformation accelerated. So, in your eyes, COVID-19 restrictions maybe have changed user behaviour and usage, and has this provided new opportunities or changed the opportunities for innovation and growing mobile broadband for you and Telenor in Pakistan?
Yeah, Julian, definitely. I think this is something which we've been trying for some time in terms of digital transformation. COVID has just accelerated. I'll just start with our own internal operations, right? So I remember we were running a 24/7, 365 days network operating center. That was nerve center. You have huge wall of screens, getting also stats and alarms and whatnot. And I used to visit even on Eid days there just to show some support to people who have to work even on festivals. When COVID hit us, we said, okay, how can we go totally touch-free remote? And it only took us 48 hours to close that nerve center and distribute it across where people are, I mean, from their homes. Our teams have done fantastic in terms of moving to alternate distribution channel when markets were down or lockdown were there. So we have seen a huge increase in topping up through Easy Paisa, which is our mobile financial services, and other digital services. So what we have seen as a trend is that people, and I was with our business team, B2B team earlier today, they were also sharing a lot of examples of business traditionally you will not think that they are progressive. or they will consider how they digitize their value chain. At least some of them will start asking. And we have many examples of how things have really picked up. Digital payments, for example, we have seen 30-40% increase there. Top up through mobile, we have seen similar increase. So there are definitely indicators which shows that we're progressing a lot faster in COVID, and people have realized the potential. And I hope that this remains sustainable. I hope that we do not go back to the old ways, because, like I said in the beginning, if 70% of new economic activity will come through digitization in an economy, we need to be better prepared. And I think we will. And but this is all about collaboration. It's all about coming together. It's about building the ecosystem. But I remain very optimistic about this.
I think that's probably great words to finish on there. I think GSMA is also very optimistic. And thank you again personally, and also from GSMA for this interview, but also for the opportunity to work together on helping Pakistan on its digital journey. And with that, I hope we can invite you to Mobile World Congress at the end of June, June 28th in Barcelona. It's a new time for this year, but as much as a convening of the industry, it'll be an opportunity to celebrate some, I think, of Pakistan's progress. We're expecting a lot of people from Pakistan to visit, and we look forward to being able to engage face to face for the first time in a long time, and discuss some of these things and work together on these challenges again in person at that event. So I look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully you'll be there.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks for your invite, and thanks for being a great support. And I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank your team for wonderful work they're doing, and for providing us a platform where we can exchange ideas and look at best practices and take the country forward. Thank you again.
Thanks very much.